We got a nice open stretch of water. We got a brand new Sea-Doo Fish Pro Sport 170. We've got a GoPro strapped to our chest, your chest, my chest, all of our chests. Great opportunity to go over the controls of a Sea-Doo. Maybe you're on the fence about buying one of these machines. Maybe you just bought one and you're confused about what all the damn buttons, doodads, for God's sakes, the throttle's a trigger. How do I use this thing? Quite simply, you just pull it and it starts going. Over here, this is called your IBR. This is only going to be on certain models, generally the upper trims and whatnot. This lever over here stands for your IBR, or Intelligent Brake in Reverse. What this does is drops down a scoop or bucket, which basically turns your forward thrust into reverse thrust. So if you're going under 9 miles an hour and you squeeze the left lever, it is simply going to put you into reverse. However, if you're going faster than 9 miles an hour and you squeeze this left trigger, this is going to engage your IBR, or Intelligent Brake and Reverse. So this lever does both brake and reverse. Under 9 miles an hour, it's going to be reverse gear, and you still need to modulate the throttle over here. So you hold down this left trigger, it's going to put it into reverse gear, but now I can control the speed of reverse with that throttle.
Now, under 9 miles an hour in that reverse mode, you do indeed need to hold down the left trigger to drop down that plastic bucket, and then use the right trigger throttle to control your speed. However, in the instruction manual, which by the way, my first night of ownership, I sat in bed and pretty much read this entire thing. I recommend doing that so you know your machine head to toe, tip to tits, nuts to bolts, you know the ins and outs. But according to the instruction manual, when using IBR over 9 miles an hour, you only need to use that left trigger, and that will also take over the right throttle as well, to where you can use one trigger to adjust the braking force. However, in my experience, that has not been the case, and I do recommend to anyone watching this video, if you run into a real life braking emergency where you need to stop because there's a boat, buoy, dock, something in front of you, screw what the instruction manual says. I have had 100% better results holding down the left trigger and then squeezing that right trigger all the way in. It's going to be a lot of braking force, so hopefully you're braced for it, or else it could buck you over the front of the handlebars, and your ski is also going to nosedive a little bit. You shouldn't submerge down into the water depending on your trim, but it definitely will sink you down into the water and stop you pretty quickly. But despite the instruction manual saying you can modulate the brake with just the left trigger, no, I haven't seen that, and I recommend using the left trigger to drop down the bucket, and then that right trigger to adjust the actual speed of you braking.
Now, when you are in forward gear, right now we're in neutral, which is the way the ski starts up. First of all, to start your ski, you can put it in an accessory mode if you want to listen to the music, if you have the speakers, or you want to mess with your Garmin, if you have the GPS, or you just want to check the engine hours, or see how much fuel you have, whatever.
One really cool safety features with these skis is it doesn't allow you to deplete the battery or kill it. You're going to be able to start your ski, at least that's how it's supposed to work. If you're in accessory mode, you can be using your Garmin navigation system or your speakers for about 60 minutes with the key removed and the engine off, until the ski will turn itself off as a safety feature, or if the battery gets down to 60% to where it knows it still has enough juice to crank the engine over and get you back to dry land. So that's cool. You're not going to get stranded out there listening to music or staring at your fish finder.
One press is going to get you into accessory mode, but installing this key, which is crab claw, it snips on like that. So if you bounce off the ski, get thrown off, it pulls this cut cord, which immediately cuts power to the motor for safety, so you can swim back to your ski and not have it keep flying away from you. But you're going to plug this in, you're going to hold down this start-stop button. It's going to start in neutral, which is indicated by that N. Now, if your ski is pulling forward or backward when you're in neutral, you might need to do some adjustment by holding down the up and down arrows on the left side over here, and that's going to adjust it to where you're not pulling forward or backward when in neutral, which I'm not. I am turning to the side. That's completely normal. Wherever your handlebars go, even in neutral, you are going to turn that way. So as you see, I'm cutting donuts on myself right now, turning in my own circle. You also get a neutral indicator light down here as well. Here's the instrumentation. Very nice, very nice. You get a lot of information here. Engine RPMs. You can even scroll through and get things like your water temperature, which currently is 79 degrees. I always thought these were padded on Sea-Doos, which would make sense if you hit a wave and take a header, don't bash your teeth out, but this is actually just hard plastic. Interesting. So you start out, you're in neutral. If you squeeze the right trigger, it's going to put you into forward gear. We're moving forward now. And even if I let off the gas completely, it is going to creep forward at about 4 miles per hour. 4 miles per hour.
So this is exactly what you're going to do when you enter a no-wake zone. So maybe you're around a marina, a dock, any no-wake zone, basically, you're just going to let off that throttle completely. It's going to pull your ski forward at about 4 miles an hour, and you're going to be creating minimal wake. You're still creating a little bit of a wake, so if there's any kayakers or paddle boarders, they might get a little perved, but really smooth at 4 miles an hour.
Now, if I want to pop it back in neutral, I'm going to squeeze that left trigger again, and now I'm in neutral, and it's just going to coast. Now I want to go in reverse, I'm going to squeeze that left trigger again, and now if I want to go fast in reverse, I got to hold down that left trigger, and use the right trigger to modulate the speed. These are going to be controls for your stereo as well as controlling the heads-up display. You also have more controls for the stereo down here. These are supposed to be for when you're in the water, when you're actually swimming and whatnot. As you can see, very easy to turn around very quickly. Now to stop the motor, either press this big red button or simply pull the cut cord and it will immediately cut engine power. You do need to have this clipped to your vest. It is a requirement from the Coast Guard because there's been too many accidents of people having runaway jet skis. There are 3 riding modes. You have default, eco, and sport. Sport gets you about 6 miles an hour more top speed, and most notably, you get a lot more acceleration, about 30 to 40% more aggressive acceleration, which is really nice. To switch those modes, you press the mode button and it will toggle between eco, standard, and sport. Now to get into sport, you actually need to press it twice. You hold it down once and then press it again just to confirm that you're ready for that aggressive sport mode. Now VTS is your variable trim system. These jet skis do have trim just like a boat where you can lift the bow up or down depending on the water conditions. So if you're in a rough ocean, then you probably want to have that bow up a bit so you're riding through that chop a little bit better. Now I do like that in its centermost position, it does give you a little indicator that you are in the center. Now I do recommend riding with the trim pretty much in the middle or one up from the middle. That seems to have the best results and be the most common with these do's. Do the do, baby. This button over here is going to be for your cruise control, but really you still need to have your finger on the trigger, so it's not like a cruise control in a car. For safety, you do still need to be squeezing that trigger. The only thing is it will limit the speed to whatever you set it at. So if you're doing 26 miles an hour and you hit this button, hold it down, it's going to set your speed. Now if you're under 9 miles an hour, this is going to work as a slow speed mode for trolling when you're fishing. Now this is a fishing specific model, so it has that feature, the 9 trolling modes. Keep in mind, you don't have to be trolling to use those modes. Maybe you just want it to creep forward at 5 miles an hour because you're touring a beautiful waterway or something. You could use that as a slow speed cruise control and take your hands completely off the bars, and it will cruise you as fast as 9 miles per hour with your hands off the bars. It does recommend in the instruction manual you maintain control of the ski at all times while you're trolling. You know, you've got your 2 rods off the back trolling and you just cruise with this thing. Pretty sick. I will do a separate tutorial of the Garmin 62CV. The 70CV is the one that comes in the Fish Pro Trophy. It is touchscreen, and I was thinking about it. It's kind of good that this isn't touchscreen because if your hands get wet or you're wearing gloves because you're fishing or whatever, touchscreen might not be the best, but I do wish this had the option of using these controls or a touchscreen as opposed to having to use these controls. But a future tutorial setting this up, I think that's just about it for controls. Let me take this dock line off and I'll talk about some of the storage. So this ski has an ungodly amount of storage. You have this small little compartment right here, which is for your cell phone. It has a watertight place that actually charges your cell phone. Then you have a little bit of space in here, just have some small items in here, my car keys and whatnot. Closing this down, pulling these 2 tabs and lifting up, you do have an ungodly amount of storage in here. I mean, it's deep. There's a ton of space. I have an extra life vest in here, a hat, my fenders, and then this is an option, the little storage bin. Got some sunscreen in here, my anchor. I usually put my dock lines in here, but they're just sitting all willy-nilly right here. And then of course you have your fire extinguisher and your emergency safety kit, which has a whistle, a mirror, the things that the Coast Guard require you to have on board any watercraft. Your fuel fill is right here. It takes 87 octane, and you can go to a regular car pump, no issue. We are drifting into this piece of wood behind me, and I just simply don't like it. Now the controls for the stereo, you're gonna hold down this play/pause button for about 5 seconds. You're gonna hear that noise, which means your speakers are now on, and also it's gonna be glowing red. But now you can control the stereo from down here or up here as well. Well, I've been told this controls your stereo, but thus far, only these ones have done that for me. This is all like controlling the heads-up display and shit. Volume up and down.
The last thing I'm going to touch on is the steering, because if you've never driven a jet ski, PWC, or even a jet boat, any kind of jet propulsion watercraft, then this is going to be very weird and foreign to you. And that is the fact that steering is actually controlled by 3 separate factors. And the big one to keep in mind is if you let off the throttle, there is 0 steering. So if you turn the handlebars all the way and you're about to hit a dock and you let off the throttle, nothing's going to happen. Recommend starting slow on your ski, keeping it out of sport mode, starting without a passenger, and just going back and forth with the steering in a wide open waterway to until you can get used to the steering, because it actually comes down to 3 factors, and that is 1, how far you move the handlebars. The second one is going to be how much gas or throttle you're giving it, because if you're at full lock and you're giving no throttle, the ski is not going to steer at all. It's going to keep going straight. But if you're at full throttle, it's going to give you so much sharper steering than if you're at a quarter throttle. And the next one is going to be body language. You actually rocking back and forth and leaning into the corners, or the turns, if you will, actually does make a difference when turning, because it catches your sponsons, which gives you even more turning, and it also makes your hull dig down into the water to where you turn sharper. So stay on the throttle if you're trying to turn, don't panic and let off, and get lots of practice at slow to medium speeds without a passenger until you feel comfortable. Another system or feature that some of the higher end Sea-Doos have built in is called IDF, which is a system or pump reversal that basically reverses your impeller and lets seagrass or a diaper or whatever you sucked up get spit out, so you don't have to hop off your ski, cut the motor, reach your hand up in the grate carefully with the motor off and try and pull seaweed and stuff out of your impeller. Supposedly the ski can do all that for you. However, the system's a little bit janky, and it does deserve its own video because it's kind of a 8-step process. It's all guided for you on the heads-up display. It tells you turn off the motor, hit the IDF button, hold down the throttle. It's going to make a god-awful sound as it spits all the shit out of your ski. But I'm going to do a separate video on the IDF system, and why I didn't include it in this is a tutorial of the controls, and the IDF isn't really controlling the ski, and it's not a system that you should use in everyday riding on the Sea-Doo. It's more of if something bad happens and you suck something up in your impeller, you can potentially spit it out. Maybe, possibly. Again, the system's pretty janky. I really hope this quick Sea-Doo tutorial was beneficial for you. If it was, liking the video helps it to get seen by others, so this information can reach and help them as well, and I'll see you in the next one. Make sure you subscribe, because this channel's Paquito, tiny, and I'd like to make it massive, El Grande, a venti, if you will. Peace.